Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. More than 1 million Ukrainians have been left without power following a massive Russian attack on Ukraine's power grid. Explosions have been reported across the country from Kharkiv in the east to Lutsk in the far west and Odessa in the south. Authorities in Kyiv say the attack lasted almost 9.5 hours and contained 188 missiles and drones. Engineers have begun to repair damage to infrastructure, but Ukrainians have been warned that emergency power shutdowns could last until the evening. This is the second attack on the country's energy system this month.
Our nations are already the largest per capita contributors of military assistance to Ukraine. We will enhance our efforts, including to defense industrial production in Ukraine, and invest to increase Ukraine's ammunition supplies. We strengthen Ukraine's energy infrastructure to help them through the winter, and we support them on their path to EU and to NATO.
And we know today better than ever before that together we are much stronger. And strength, this is what we need today. Also, this readiness to demonstrate that we are determined and ready to do everything we can as a group, as a format, but also as a EU, as a NATO, to prevent risks, which is, of course, the Russian aggressive.
Votes are being counted in Namibia in what could be the most competitive election since independence from white-ruled South Africa 34 years ago. The poll was marred by logistical issues, with voting continuing for an unscheduled second day on Thursday in some areas. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah is seeking to become the country's first female president. She is the candidate of the governing Southwest Africa's People's Organization, but high unemployment, poverty, inequality and corruption allegations have eroded support for the party. Israel will appeal against the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Judges last week issued warrants for the two men, along with Hamas military commander Mohammed Deif, saying there were reasonable grounds to believe the three men bore criminal responsibility for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. Israel's government, along with Netanyahu and Gallant, strongly rejects the accusations. Several of Donald Trump's cabinet nominees and picks for his White House team have been targeted by bomb threats. Lori Chavez DeRema, Lee Zeldin and Elise Stefanik were among those threatened. The FBI said it was aware of numerous bomb threats as well as swatting incidents in which hoax calls are made to attract a police response to the target's home. Threats were made at least 9 people chosen by Trump to lead the Departments of Defense, Housing, Agriculture and Labor, as well as his pick for U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. 3 Americans detained exchange for 3 Chinese prisoners in the US after Joe Biden and his administration negotiated a prisoner swap. Mark Sidden, Kai Li, and John Lung are on their way back to the US, a spokesperson for the National Security Council said. The exchange was reportedly months in the making. President Biden raised the issue of Americans wrongfully detained in China directly with President Xi Jinping earlier this month, when the two met during the APEC summit in Peru. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum has appeared to contradict President-elect Donald Trump's claim that the two have struck a deal to stop migration to the US border. After a phone call on Wednesday, Trump posted online, "She has agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border." Sheinbaum responded quickly that she had reiterated Mexico's position was not to close borders, but to address migration while respecting human rights. And the famous Thanksgiving Day Parade has taken place in New York. The event is celebrating 100 years and featured more than 30 balloons and 20 floats, 11 marching bands and 10 performance groups. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade has been the most watched entertainment show in the United States for the past 3 years. In downtown Los Angeles, turkey and all the trimmings were dished out for homeless people by celebrities. A record number of nearly 80 million Americans are expected to travel at least 50 miles by car over the next week to see family and friends for the traditional holiday. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.